Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kathleen Taylor, and I am with the Nevada Women's Business Center. I am so pleased to have an amazing woman here today. She is a fantastic resource partner. She is a savvy entrepreneur in her own right, and we're going to talk today about the successful woman's mindset. And that's something that you specialize in. So I'm so happy to have you here today. Would you like to introduce yourself to the audience?
Absolutely.
Sure.
Thank you, Kathleen. It's so nice to be here. Most of the people that know what I do know that I absolutely love our city.
Yes.
And I've lived in Las Vegas myself for 30 years, so I pretty much call myself a resident at this point.
Absolutely.
So I love being able to do things like this that can support women that are out there in business, either that are starting their own businesses or thinking of doing it. So thank you. So a little bit about myself.
Sure.
My name is Galit Ventura-Rozen. I'm a women empowerment and business mentor. And I've worked locally in operating and owning and building from the ground up my own businesses over the last 20 years. And my specialty is women. And honestly, the reason that this is one of my favorite topics to talk about is because I truly believe that I can teach women all day long the tools to be successful in business.
Right.
Because really those are logical, strategic steps.
Yes.
But if you don't have the mindset to go with it doesn't matter what I teach you.
I agree.
Yes.
Definitely. Now, in reference to having the mindset and being open to learning opportunities for your own professional development and personal development, you yourself, you say that you're a lifelong student. So what does that mean?
It's so much fun. I love telling people that. Even though I decided to go back to school at the age of 38 to get my master's degree, which isn't always the most common thing to do, but you're seeing it more and more today amongst women, that they are going back to school and trying to change their career and decide what they want to do. So whenever somebody talks to me about, well, where are you in your career? What is it that you're learning? What is it that you're doing? I kind of call myself a lifelong student because I believe that no matter what you know, there's always something that you can learn. And I'm constantly wanting to learn more and more. So I'm a little bit of a sponge. I'm constantly listening to Audible books. I listened to one on the way here. I'm constantly sharing with my clients how they can improve themselves. So I think that's why I shared that with you, that I see myself as a lifelong student. And I also like to say a work in progress.
Oh, that's even better.
That's kind of fun.
There's always value when you feel as if there isn't a ceiling.
Yes.
And there's always something to learn from any situation, whether you're on the side of the spectrum of success or you're on the side of the spectrum of having challenges or issues. And you know what? Speaking of challenges, so to speak, when we are in business, we may look at our competition as being adversarial, so to speak. But, you know, sometimes competition can be an asset. So what are your thoughts on that?
One of the things that I love most about supporting women is showing them that it does not need to be cutthroat.
Right.
And we come from a society, which I believe is much better than when I was younger, but we come from a society where you sometimes think you need to step on other women to get where you want to get. And what I teach a lot of the time is go out, research your competition. Don't allow it to cause you fear, because a lot of times what happens is the woman says, what are you talking about? There's thousands of people doing exactly what I want to do. How is someone going to hire me, or how is someone going to purchase my product? And I said, it doesn't matter. You're unique in who you are. Let's say you're service-based, or your product is going to be different because of the way you present it and the person that's selling it. So I definitely like to make it a point to say, don't look at other women or other business owners or other businesses that are similar as competition.
Yes.
Instead, look at it and learn. Learn the things that you like that they're doing. Learn the things that you would change if it was your business.
Okay.
And make sure that whatever you're doing is uniquely yours, almost as if you don't need to reinvent the wheel.
Right.
But it's so easy today with, my favorite thing is Google. It's so easy today to find out so much information that's out there.
Absolutely.
It's at the fingertips for you all the time. Remember the days when we had to look in encyclopedias?
I remember. Absolutely.
I had every set. We don't have to do that anymore. So it's just, that's the way I want women to definitely look at competition.
And with that, if we look at it and frame it from a value proposition perspective, where you have a pain point or a challenge that your customers are facing within the industry to access your service or your products, and then you think of a solution to that issue that your customers are having, and then you have like a call to action that will then lead to certain outcomes. So from a value proposition perspective, what are some like call to actions that a woman who is, let's say, trying to open a business, or she's already has an established business, what are some like best practices, like a call to action to get me from this level here to the next level in being a woman with a success-driven mindset? What are some call to action tips that you would like to share?
Absolutely, that's a really good question. So I would probably say the first call to action is just like you said, knowing who your client is. You must understand who your client is. I know exactly who my client is. I know so well who my client is that if you go on the insights on my Facebook business page and you look in the background of it or behind the scenes, I'm hitting exactly my target, even on something as simple as a Facebook business page.
Excellent.
So that is very important. You must know, and we always call it, we almost look at it as a client avatar. So that would be the first place that I would start.
Okay.
Actually, no. I would first start with your vision. So if this is not an existing business, and also if you're thinking of taking your existing business to the next level, or starting a new business, I would first start with the vision.
Okay.
Everything for me starts and ends with the vision. If you cannot see it, even if you don't know how to get to the end result, have a vision for what you want your business to look like.
Right.
Once you have the details, and write it all down, every single thing you can think of associated with what type of clientele you want, what hours you want to work, where you want it located, service or product that you want to include. So I would start with the vision. Then I would go into knowing who your client is. You must know who your client is.
Absolutely.
And that would be demographics like age, gender, and it could be multiple. It doesn't have to be one. It could be what are their hobbies? What do they like to do on the weekend? Do they have a family? Do they not? And then I would, after I knew who my client was, I would definitely go into knowing what products do I have to offer? What services?
Exactly.
And then you want to start going into the pain point. You want to solve a problem. At the end of the day, I always think about something as simple as face cream.
Oh, okay, sure.
People love, I mean, face cream, you run out, you go buy more.
Yes, you do, and it's a continuous cycle.
Continuous. What a
Yes.
smart thing, right?
Yes.
So you want to think, because really, I know many people have heard this before, but many a times it's that 80-20 principle.
I agree.
Very, and great book, by the way, 80-20 Marketing. Wonderful book. I recommend it to everyone. That you're going to get 80% of your business from 20% of your clients.
Yes.
So if you're continuously recognizing who your avatar is and what their pain points are, and you're solving that problem, that is a great start for you to go ahead and do the value proposition for your business.
And in reference to the vision of a business, looking at it from a mission-focused perspective, how do you feel about whether you're established or starting up, where there are opportunities with a different path that may be diverging from your vision and from your mission, kind of like you're chasing the money, so to speak, and that particular pot of money may not necessarily align with your vision and your mission. What's some advice about that, about really being true to your roots, so to speak, in reference to your vision and your mission, although there may be other opportunities that may not quite align with that?
I can only speak from my experience, and I can only speak from a lot of my business clients' experience. What I have found over and over again is the more that you are passionate about something that you do, and the more you truly are coming from a place of purpose to serve. And it could be in so many different, even face cream serves a purpose.
Sure.
It doesn't have to be this extreme idea. success just follows because there's a genuine part there. So when you're out there and you're genuine and you're authentic and you build a basis from a mission and a purpose, it seems, and it's been proven in my eyes over and over again, that you are successful and the money comes.
I agree.
Yeah, I'm glad you agree with me. It makes it easier, right,
Yes.
Kathleen? I don't think there's anything wrong with people that are money driven.
No, not at
There's
all.
nothing wrong. Good
No.
for you. Good luck. I just know that I can speak for my own personal mission. And for me, it starts and ends with serving, giving back, and serving a purpose that's higher than me.
Yes, absolutely. And in reference to the unknown, so to speak, how can that be an advantage, so to speak, of, you know what, I only know what I know, and there's some things that I don't know. How can one use that as a motivating factor that ties into the mindset of a successful woman?
So one of the characteristics that I believe makes up a successful woman is twofold. There's a few sides to the question that you asked that I heard. First and foremost, the uncomfortable. So we'll start with that. I believe that if you want to succeed in life in your way, in your purpose, and I'm a really big believer, I do not go out there and sell this one definition of success. For every person, it means something else. So you decide what it means for you.
Sure.
And if you don't know what it means for you, I suggest that you look up women or men or someone that you're inspired by and see what success means to them and see if it resonates with you.
Yes.
So the first piece would be the uncomfortable. I do not believe that you can go to the next level in your life or cause change if you do not get accustomed to the uncomfortable.
I agree.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And change really happens in the uncomfortable. That's something I say a lot. So a lot of times I'll say to my clients, just get used to this. But I can't breathe. It's so funny, Kathleen. I'll be on the phone with someone either before they hire me or afterwards, and they'll say, I can't breathe and I'm sweating. And I said, yeah, there you go. You're ready for change. And then they look at me and they're, what do you mean? And I said, and now get used to it if you want to work with me. So first and foremost, you must get accustomed to the heart beating fast, the clammy, and it's different for every person, right? But for me, the heart beats out of the chest. And then I go, oh, yay, I'm doing something I should be doing.
Getting
So
out of your comfort zone.
absolutely. So first and foremost, get comfortable with the uncomfortable.
Sure.
That is so important. And then the second piece to that would be related to, oh my gosh, we were talking and I got lost.
This is great. Go
Yeah. It's so funny. I get so into what I'm
Yes,
speaking about
fantastic.
because it's so much passion. I'm like, what was the second thing? It'll come to me in a second. Oh, learning. You must be open to learning.
Yes, absolutely.
I believe that's also a woman's characteristic to be successful. You must recognize that, again, my personal opinion, you don't know everything.
Right.
And I don't think it is possible to know everything in our lifetimes.
I agree.
I think there's always something else you can learn. So the second piece of that stood out for me is be open to not just teaching, but also learning. So it's okay to recognize that sometimes you can be the teacher, sometimes you can be the student.
Right.
And that if you don't allow yourself to be open to the idea that you don't know everything,
Right.
you're almost limiting yourself.
I agree.
And
Definitely.
and you kind of almost get stuck.
Yes, you do.
So we spoke at the beginning about being a lifelong student myself, and it's
Yes.
because I just feel like I have something to learn from everyone.
Excellent. And now, in reference to there's some of us that are wired differently, so to speak, and everyone has their own gifts and strengths. What advice would you give to someone that is wired in a way that everything has to be done right, everything has to be done correctly, the T's have to be crossed, the I's have to be dotted, versus someone who achieves success according to their definition of success in being perfectly imperfect? So you have like two views that are on the different sides of the table. What are your thoughts about that?
My first instinct is to tell them to get over it. So sorry. I'm very sweet natured, and this is the way I work with my clients, but I can also be very straightforward, and I'm not going to sit there and baby you. So if you're sitting here and you're holding yourself back because of this characteristic, this perfection, and a lot of times, Kathleen, it's from my experience, it actually is directly related to the fear of something.
I agree.
So I'm not going to guess what it is because every person is individual, as you stated, but a lot of times it's related with the fear of failure when it's a perfectionist.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
I feel like it's definitely related to fear of failure. And so what I suggest at that point is you need to step out and really recognize, why are you not doing this? Why are you not choosing this? Why are you not trying this out? And go deeper, because it's never on the surface.
I agree.
And a lot of what I deal with, or what women that work in business mentoring deal with, is the obstacles. And that really is what has to do with the successful mindset of a woman. So instead, I want to give them a different perspective.
Yes.
I want to give them the perspective, and I'm sure you've heard this before. It's not something I came up with, but it's important to know. Look at obstacles, instead of being in your way, as part of the path.
Oh, very good.
So when you start switching, and again, it's the mindset, right?
Yes.
Instead of, oh, I can't do this, I'm scared I'm going to fail. What if I don't make it? What if I'm not good enough? What if it's not perfect enough? So instead of just saying get over it, because it typically doesn't solve the problem, step back and recognize, what can you learn from this experience? How can it make you stronger in what you're trying to do?
Right.
And I always go back to history. How many times have the most successful people failed?
Oh.
And how many times have they tried again and again?
Right.
So I hate to break it to you, but if you're watching and you failed, you're normal.
Yes, absolutely.
And it's normal to fail.
Yes, it
and
is.
just get right back up and try it again and figure out a better way to do it. I keep learning from my failures.
Yes.
And so I think that's important for someone to know.
Oh, yes, definitely. I'm just curious. I'm 47, part of the younger boomer generation, so to speak, and we have just a phenomenal generation as a product of us, the millennials. Are there some things that you would advise a boomer that you would say differently, or advise a millennial differently when it comes to these particular principles of the successful woman's mindset? I'm just looking at it from a generational perspective.
Sure. I think the piece, first of all, even though we have the age groups, what I've noticed is we've got the 20-somethings that are old souls and have this experience behind them. Then we have the 40-somethings that are almost a little bit younger in the way that they look at their outlook on business and on the things that they want to do. So I think my advice would be to actually look within yourself and recognize what your own triggers are. And what is it that's holding you back.
Right.
So I don't think there's a piece of advice that I could give across the board, and that probably has something to do with the fact that I really like to look at each woman as an individual.
Sure.
And so even though someone that's 20-something might not be compared to a 40-something-year-old, at the end of the day, if they were raised in a similar fashion in a household that was similar, with characteristics and limited beliefs and so on, and a lot of those things are what hold us back, I would first start there.
Sure.
And then I would say, okay, now I see what's holding you back. The second piece of that for me is, obviously, in our age group, we're in the same age group, we are learning technology on a day-by-day basis.
Yes.
And I think we've mastered it. We're going to just give us a credit.
Yes.
Quite a bit. But the 20-somethings were pretty much born into it.
Right.
So I think that there's a lot of things that are going to be easier and less frustrating for the millennials
I agree.
than the age group that we're in. So there might be things that are easier, but I also feel like it's the same for our age group.
Yes.
A lot of the morals and values that we were raised on, and the things that we were taught in a world that didn't revolve around technology,
Right.
the social aspects and the
Exactly.
networking and the face-to-face.
Yes.
So I think my piece of advice would be, learn from each other.
I agree.
Yeah,
Definitely.
learn from each other. I think that's what I would say.
Now, you mentioned earlier within the statement that you just made about limiting belief system. Could you expound upon that a little bit more as in how that affects someone that's trying to embrace the successful woman's mindset?
Absolutely. And I do an entire presentation. It's like 2 hours long for some of the employment agencies in Las Vegas, because it's such a dire thing that holds back so many people.
Yes.
So the easiest way to explain to you what a limited belief is, it's something that's not factual.
Yes.
So I always use this fun example, Kathleen. Okay, did you ask 10 Nobel Peace Prize winners? And did they all tell you that this is true? So it's typically something that you believe about yourself,
Sure.
or believe about something that's holding you back. So for example, let's use one of the most common obstacles or limited beliefs, money.
Yes.
So if you grew up believing that money was bad, maybe in your household you heard your parents fighting, maybe they were living paycheck to paycheck, and you started believing in this idea that, having too much money isn't good.
Yes.
But I need to have enough to pay my bills. Now what you've done is you've limited yourself. So you'll find a way never to have more money than you need to just survive.
Interesting.
So that's typically the background or the idea of what a limited belief is.
Now, in going back to the 80-20 rule, do you feel that from a growth and development perspective, or even from managing your own business, do you think it's like 80% psychological and 20% effort? Because if you understand the motivation and the psyche, of the behavior patterns of someone, and what triggers them, that's like the majority of the game is won almost. And then you just basically have to do some tweaks here on the being active and the application side of things at 20. Do you think that may be applicable, the 80-20 rule?
All right, so now I'm going to have to go home and Google this. Isn't that funny? I want to learn. I've never looked at it that way.
Okay.
And I know everybody has a different idea. I've heard it across the board. I've heard 50-50. I've heard 80-20. I've heard so many different percentages, but I've never actually researched it. And that's probably the master's degree in me, right, Kathleen, where I want to go and give it back up.
That's a great thing, because you're a lifetime learner.
I really want to. So I'm going to have to research that and let you know. My personal thought, because you asked me what my opinion was.
Sure.
I use the 50-50 a lot.
Okay.
But I think it's a little bit more than that. I think it depends on what you're actually working on in your business. So there are days where I'll see with a client that it becomes 80 about tools, 20 about mindset. But then all of a sudden one day it'll be 90 mindset and 10 tools.
Sure.
So I think what I've learned in my experiences, it really depends on, you mentioned strengths and weaknesses. So typically a lot of this pops up when you don't have confidence in the skills that you're trying or the skills that you're putting forth. So I would think that would be a big factor in it. So I think that it just adjusts constantly.
I think it does. You're right.
I
It's
know.
more fluid versus, a concrete, so to speak.
I do.
Well,
I feel like it's different for each person as well as for yourself. So I don't think it'll be across the board for you. And I mean in general, a person.
Sure.
I don't even think it is for me. I think it depends on the day, what I'm trying to conquer, what I'm trying to accomplish. And from there, I just figure out, okay, today I don't need to focus on the tools. I need to figure out on why I'm thinking this way.
And to kind of explore what you said earlier, when I posed this question to you, you said, well, you know what? I don't know. I'll have to go and do some research about that. And I think that's a lesson within itself. That's huge. When you are placed in that position as a business owner or a startup business owner, and you don't know everything. So for me, the whole notion of fake it until you make it goes out the door. And I have so much more respect towards someone when they simply say, you know what, that's an interesting question. I'll have to get back with you on that. Let me do a little bit more research, versus doing this whole fake it till you make it, explanation and dancing around, this whole dynamic. So I really appreciate you being authentic within that moment of saying that. And to me, that was like a live moment of application of the successful woman's mindset right in front of me during the conversation.
Thank you.
That's what I really appreciate about that.
I agree with that statement. Absolutely.
And could you expound about that? Because I've heard it all of my professional life. Hey, fake it till you make it, blah, blah, blah. What do you feel about that?
I agree with you 100%. That's what I teach. That's what I live. I agree that You are always going to be more respected. First of all, you're going to make mistakes.
Right.
So if you accidentally give them the wrong information, no one's going to hold it against you.
Right.
But if you don't know the right information, I always share that. I always say, I've mentored a lot of younger girls in Las Vegas through different leadership programs and different professions of mine. I've always loved bringing in the 20-somethings and kind of lifting them up, and then I say they fly away in a sense for me.
Sure.
And I'm always open to that. And one of the first things I teach them when they're learning whatever profession I'm teaching them is, please, if you don't know the answer to the question, tell them, let me find out for you.
Right.
Let me ask my broker, let me ask my boss, let me make sure that I know the answer, because I want to make sure I give you the right answer.
Right.
And I believe if they don't take that as in a way of respect, as you said,
Sure.
and they don't take that as a way of weight, she wants to make sure that she is giving me the accurate information. She's taking what I'm sharing with her, and she's taking it very seriously.
Yes.
It's not about covering yourself up.
Right.
I giggle a lot because I have a daughter that's almost 14, my youngest, and I'm at that age where I have no problem embarrassing myself anymore.
You mentioned
Are you talking about the obstacles and the different floodgates that open up?
Yes.
And I think a lot of that comes from this fear again of we need to know everything. We need to be the strongest. We shouldn't have to ask for help. You don't realize when you admit that you don't know something
Yes.
and you ask for help, how many people, men or women, it doesn't matter,
Sure.
will come out and offer to guide you, offer to help you, offer to show you the way. So
agree.
that one's really big as well. Oh, let me look at I want to make sure. Oh, believe you can. Very important. And that's the confidence.
yes.
I told Kathleen I wanted to write these down because they were so
please.
important to remember.
Absolutely.
So we went over never fear competition, learn from it, be open to learn always, get comfortable with the unknown. Oh, we did so good.
You did?
Own your mistakes and failures, huge. We can talk about that. Give as well as be open to receive. Turn fear into determination, if you want to talk about that one.
Sure.
Use your past successes to overcome future obstacles, and believe you can.
Oh, please pick one.
Yeah. So one of my favorite ones, which it's kind of a tie. I love use your past successes to overcome future obstacles, and I love turn fear into determination.
Sure.
Those are two of my favorite topics to talk about because nobody ever thinks about that.
No.
So let's start with fear. Fear, again, not Google searched or journal searched, but fear, I believe, is one of the number one obstacles that stops people
I agree.
from getting to where they want to or trying something new.
Sure.
And there's so many fears that could be associated. But just for this conversation, we'll just use the general statement of fear.
Yes.
How do you turn fear into determination?
Yes.
Oh, fun one for me.
Uh-huh.
Do you know that feeling you get when you start getting scared of something and you're thinking, oh my gosh, I can't do this. I'm going to say no. I'm going to turn it down. I don't have enough experience. What if I fail? What if I don't do well? For example, you asked me to be on today. I could have, from the fear of being on video or talking live. This isn't edited, guys.
Yeah.
So I'm going to make mistakes. And I said yes.
Yes, you did.
Then I figure out how to deal with it.
Yes.
Okay?
I understand.
So turning fear into determination means that feeling that, and I always do this because I feel it here, that feeling that you get inside that's trying to stop you, that almost knots in your stomach.
Yes.
That to me can be turned into determination by recognizing the power and the strength that feeling has.
I agree. Definitely.
So when you learn to turn fear into determination, which so many people that are watching probably already have, they just don't realize they have.
Yes.
You take that power, you take that strength, and instead of stopping you, it pushes you.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah.
And what do you feel about in reference to that and being very intentional with your with making that shift of you are aware within your own self-awareness that I'm going through this moment of fear and it's causing paralysis, so to speak. And then motivating you to go through that process of taking, that state into something that can really be beneficial. So how important it is to be very clear and intentional with that, because, and the reason why that I'm asking is that some people may may go through the natural instinct of fight or flight. I'm scared. Either I stay in the trenches and fight my way out, or I, take the road and it's like, you know what, I'm going to pass on this fight. So what are some of your thoughts about that?
So first of all, I love that you said fear. I love that you said fight or flight. I use that example all the time. We're sharing a brainwave today, you and I. We didn't even practice. We just got on and we're pulling this off. So that is so important because I believe that's where fear comes. Having a master's degree in therapy, I learned so much about this.
Yes.
And the reason I decided to go back and get my master's degree was so I could teach business women what's stopping them, the obstacles. And that flight or fight mode is important to have in our body for that reason. Yes. So if you get in a car accident or there's a fire, you want that instinct. But what we don't realize, and this goes back to the uncomfortable, okay, Kathleen? What we don't realize is that comes into effect with fear. And our body automatically wants to protect us from the unknown. Okay?
Yes.
So you're seeing all the connection now.
Yes.
So when that happens, I love your word aware. It's one of my favorite words. When you become aware and you sit and you allow it and you recognize it and you make a choice to work through it. One of my other favorite words, right? You make a choice to work through it. That's when everything changes because now you tell your body, whoa, I recognize that you're a little bit fearful because this feels new and uncomfortable, but I'm telling you that I'm okay. This is just something you have not tried before. You have not been involved in or attempted. But this is not something that's life-threatening in a sense, right?
Right.
Getting up in front of a crowd. How many people never ever get out there and speak in front of a crowd because of the fear?
Right.
And that's fight or flight. I've never done this before.
Right.
So I would just go back to, just like you said, becoming aware, staying with it, recognizing, okay, what's this feeling and how do I allow my body to know it's okay, I'm safe, I'll protect you, and now turn it into the determination to do it. Because the neatest thing for me to see more than anything is a woman that fights through that, gets to the other side of determination. And I'm such a visual person, Kathleen, so I see this person looking back and going, I beat it. I got past it, right? Yes. It's so rewarding.
It is.
That it's worth it. It's worth the perspiring and the hands and the shortness of breath and the heart beating because what right on the other side is pretty much everything that you want.
Exactly. I agree.
Yeah.
And that reminds me of a quote. I can't remember who said it, but everything that you want in life is on the other side of fear.
Ooh, I love that.
And I really do, take that to heart, so to speak. And to kind of explore this a little bit more, when people say motivation, what usually comes to mind is, and even in business, is this is my what? This is my product or service. This is what I envision to do with it. And then they go to like autopilot, so to speak, the why. This is why there's a need in a marketplace for this. This is why it can be today. Miss Christina Stace of the Small Business Administration, she's going to be on the air as soon as we wrap up as well. And the SBA is an amazing resource for those of you that are embarking upon the journey of being an entrepreneur, or you're already, within the midst of it as an established business owner. So I'm really looking forward to having Tina with us in just a bit. Now, in reference, this has been an incredible conversation.
It's been fun.
Yes, it has. What are like some pearls of wisdom that you would like to share, with our audience in reference to the successful woman's mindset before we close?
The first thing and probably the most important thing, if not the only thing for me, is this. If you have a vision and if you have a desire for something that you want in your life, and the only thing that's stopping you I really want to emphasize this. Don't get me wrong. A lot of times there's all of these hows again. The how. But if fear is stopping you, And I use this analogy a lot, and a lot of people kind of get angry with me. If you wake up tomorrow and you're 80 years old and you look back on your life, will you be happy with the choices that you make? Will you feel like you accomplished the things that you wanted to and your desires? Or will the only thing you'll be able to look back at is say, I allowed fear to stop me?
Oh, fantastic.
So that's my pearl of wisdom today is this. If the how is stopping you, there's always a how.
Oh,
There's
I like
always
that.
a how
I
all
like
day
that.
long.
yes.
But if it's fear, find a way to work through it. And there's so many resources out there. I myself put on webinars, the fear of fail, overcome this, the fear of failing in your business, and all of these different things because it's such a big piece of why people don't start.
Right. I
You
agree.
must. And then the second thing I'm going to sneak in there, because I said there was one, it's almost like a subcategory, is
Sure.
a lot of people use the excuse of being too busy.
Ah,
How
yes,
simple is
this
it
is true.
to take 5 minutes out of every day, 10 minutes, an hour? Are you really that busy?
Right.
And just a funny story before we go, Kathleen. At my last workshop, I asked the women, how many of you watch Netflix? And I mean, the whole audience raised their hand. And then I said 1 hour a week, 2 hours, 5 hours, 7 hours, 10. And I said, why don't we just start a group, Netflix Anonymous? And it's so funny, right? It's hilarious. And I said, so as busy as you think you are you really too busy to spend a little time each day building the world, the future that you desire? So don't think of this as this huge thing you have to accomplish today.
Right.
Set aside a time in your calendar the same way you do to exercise, eat, take your kids to school, meet your girlfriends, whatever it is that you do, and just set a little bit of time each day. And that gets you a step closer to realizing that you can do what you want to do.
Absolutely. And let me ask you this, and it's a basic question, but I think there's some depth to it too. How does one get out of their own way?
Oh my God, I have a whole class on that. It's so funny. I've taught 3-hour workshops just on that. How to get out of your own way to accomplishing your goals. I mean, gosh. So the short version would be, first, become aware that you're in your own way. One of your words.
Yes.
Become aware that you're on way. And then sit back and recognize and try to come up with the steps. And if you can't do it yourself, again, find the how to getting out of your own way. And typically, Kathleen, it's definitely most of the time related to fear. And I've heard so many people use but I don't have enough money. But I don't have the resources. But I don't have the time. I'm telling you, people can come up with every excuse in the book. Do you know what my gift is? Giving you a solution for every excuse. So it's not the excuse. You can come up with every excuse in the book.
Yes.
You just need to become aware and you need to make a choice. So
agree.
if you don't take anything away from today, take away the words aware and choice.
Yes.
Become aware that this is what you're doing to yourself. You're in your own way, you're
you
stuck,
are.
and make a
Absolutely.
choice to change it.
Now, how do you coach a person along in the process of making a choice? Because
I'm giggling.
you know how people typically live in their own world where their choices are truth, but in the outside world is a different reality, and their choice may not align with what is the best direction to take. So how do you take a person through the process of choice, so to speak?
Good question. Oh, wow. I think that we're going to go back, and again, I think you're going to start with awareness. So, for example, yes, we do live in our own world, and some of us are happy there. And if you're happy there, stay there. This is not the conversation for those women. This is the conversation for those women, Kathleen, that are waking up in the middle of the night or finally getting in bed at 10 o'clock because they finally put the kids to bed, and they just feel like there's something more. That's the conversation. So if you're sitting at home and you're going, there's got to be more than this routine. You know, I always use Groundhog Day as an example. You know the movie. So I use that as an example. Until he finally figured out the way to do it, he lived this life. And by the way, it was 34 years of the same day. And I looked that up because I used it in a presentation.
Wow.
So instead of, if you feel like you're living your own Groundhog Day, the way that I would guide you through choice is this. First and foremost, just be aware and then say it out loud. I'm making a choice today to change whatever it is,
Right.
or whatever it is you want. Now recognize, I know that in this moment you don't have the tools,
I understand.
but the awareness and making the choice and just saying it out loud,
Yes.
and then you go into plan.
Yes.
And that's going to take you back to the vision. What's my vision for myself? What do I need and who do I need to get me there? And start building a team you. So Kathleen, if you were my client, I'd be like, let's build a team Kathleen. What is it you want? Where do you want to go? What is it you want to accomplish? And then start building a team.
Yes.
There's not a limit to the resources that are out there. Look at your center. I mean, it's not a problem to find the resources out there.
Right.
And not everything costs tons of money.
Exactly.
So I would tell them, that's how I would probably guide them through choice.
I think that's
Yeah.
fantastic.
And to continue in reference to guidance, how can someone contact you for a consultation or to book you for an event, or just helping them in this whole maze of self in order to find yourself on the other side of the rainbow?
Sure. So I'm all over social media under my name, Galit, Galit, Ventura-Rozen with a Z. You can find me on social media. You can also find me at my website, which is Galit Empowering, the letter U.com.
Yes.
And I'm very easily accessible that way. So if it's something that you're looking at doing and you need the how, and recognize I speak to a lot of women that don't hire me. My goal in life is to give as many women as I can the direction that they need. I
Yes.
can't work with everyone. I only have so many hours in a day.
Sure.
So if you're just looking for a bit of guidance, at least I can put you in the right direction, as well as your center can as well, Kathleen.
thank you.
So I think it's really important to just research the resources and start figuring out where you can plug it into your life and use it to your advantage.
Absolutely.
And with that, I'd like to say a special hello to Ruth Furman. Thank you so much, Ruth, for connecting us together. Really appreciate it. And this has been such a wonderful flow, of conversation. I'm really thrilled to continue this conversation with you about the successful woman's mindset to come. A continuation for another live stream webinar. This is fantastic.
Sure,
so thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate that. Thank you.